Uh, all right, folks. Here we are again. All right. There's some interesting stuff. Like I say, once I learn something, I want to share with all y'all. That's kind of how I feel about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and share with y'all this business here. I think we're gonna start with talking about, for the long-time subscribers. I know Union Ball doesn't know this guy necessarily, but who knows how you may feel about him. But talk about Justin King, aka Bo of the Fifth Column, and his anarchism is showing. His one-sided, kind of hypocritical anarchism, but anarchism nonetheless. So let's get into that first. It's about a 5-minute video, and we'll just try to let him talk, and then we'll throw in our business and then go from there.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we're talking about decisions, decision-making, information, and children. There's a whole lot of people and a whole lot of parents saying that they're having trouble making a decision as to whether or not to send their kids back to school. Why is this decision difficult? That's the question. If this was any other scenario, would it be difficult? Right now, the reason people are having trouble is because an institution that they've been conditioned to believe is telling them something.
Once again, barely 40 seconds in. Been conditioned to believe. Once again, this is a guy who built his following basically courting the resistance crowd, and talking about kind of bootlicking the United States military. Now he's the mask off and trying to be an anarchist. So let's hear this.
Is at odds with reality. The state, the government, is telling them something's okay when they know it's not. Take this scenario and put it in any other situation. Some dude in a suit in your state capital or in DC, it's okay for your kid to do this, but you feel that it may not be safe. What do you do? That person does not matter, right? Their opinion does not matter. Nothing changed just because that person. If you're having trouble making this decision, there's no decision to be made. Where there's doubt, there is no doubt. When it comes to safety, the safety of your children, if you doubt they will be safe at school, don't send, period, full stop. There's no decision to be made. The government, as an institution, does not care about your child.
Once again, I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. But the thing is, man, this is my only real argument I have against this is, as much as you say don't send your kids to school if they have doubts, but you be the first motherfucker in line to get a shot, to get a vaccine. It's like, oh, well, you shouldn't trust kids in school, but vaccines are okay. Oh, vaccines, causing autism. Oh, that's crazy talk. You're Alex Jones, bro. Give me a break.
They don't care about your kid's life, period. Because the Republican Party is now in the position of,
once again,
trying to bend reality.
The Republican Party. Now, he has criticized the Democratic Party as well. I will try to be good faith here. But once again, he throws it all on the Republican Party. Now, this is not me sheepdogging people to the Republican Party and say, oh, please vote for Republican. I don't give a shit. Go ahead and do what you want. If you don't want, hell, if you don't even want to vote, go ahead and just don't vote. But the thing is, the immediate time that he says Republican, come on, man. Share the blame. Everyone can share the wealth of the blame.
It seems like everything okay. They have to do that so hopefully they can get reelected. And now the President of the United States is attempting to circumvent the CDC and take control of the numbers, the information that you would use to determine whether or not it's safe for your child to go. He wants to take control of that. He wants to remove that from the CDC. The easiest way to determine whether or not this is a good idea is to go back and look at how often the President is fact-checked and he's proven to be a liar. I would not trust information coming from this administration. I certainly would not trust it if I thought my kid's life depended on it. Where there is doubt, there is no doubt. Any rational person is going to doubt information out of this administration. There's no doubt.
But you're going to trust the CDC that got in for, and you're going to trust the folks that couldn't even get this shit taken care of in the first place. And I know, oh, well, Trump cut the budget, so it's, yeah, fine. All right, I'll give you that. But the thing is to say that, once again, this is very selective. It's like, oh, well, I don't like Trump. This is, once again, this is the orange man bad shit. That's all the fuck this is. It's just orange man bad. It's like, look, I get it. Trump is bad, whatever. But the thing is, look, chances are, the way it looks right now, depending, is that chances are people are going to be stuck inside and they're going to watch some Lincoln Project video or whatever the case may be. They're going to decide, okay, I'm not going to vote for Trump again. Other than some rich honkies that, that are disconnected from reality or whatever the case may be, they're watching Fox News. Apart from them, chances are that, Joe Biden is going to be the next president. A lot of people are already coming up with that. But then again, a lot of those folks were wrong back in 2016. But of course, they say that, Trump doesn't have the same support that he did in 2016. And I'll say, yeah, that's true too. But anyway, let's continue.
If you're having trouble making this decision, there's no decision to be made. It means that you have doubts about safety. Do not let the state, the government, bully you in to your child. There have been times in history where people just follow the orders of the state. It almost never works out well because the state does not care about your life, does not care about your kid.
Once again, the state doesn't care about your life, doesn't care about the state. Oh boy. Take your anarchist nonsense. It's just like, okay, yeah, I get it. Okay, yeah, the state doesn't care about it. Okay, fine. I'll agree with you. But once again, your hypocrisy shows so deep. The minute they come up with a fucking vaccine, you're going to be the first one standing in line with your kids. All right? Don't let this motherfucker try to fool you. To me, this is just typical bullshit. You have to remember is that he's still promoting, in his last video that he did, he was praising the Lincoln Project. Lincoln Project are Republicans that, well, you know what? Praise is a strong word. Is that he was saying that they did some good things. Basically because he said they wanted to protect the Republican Party. And this, of course, I would show the clip, but I don't want to get flagged. But they had Stephen Colbert had Rick Wilson on there. And they had complete cartoon characters who, and they had these voice actors or the writers or whoever who asked them these questions. And of course, Rick Wilson was a big supporter of George W. Bush. And he said, these are all, liberal bitches, this and that back in, back in like 2010, I think. And now it's like, now all these MSNBC folks and these neoliberals are giving them money. Look up Rick Wilson, look up the Lincoln Project. It's like they get 89% of their money goes to overhead and 11% goes to the actual fucking cause. I mean, the video was just a great BTFO. It was like 4 minutes and they just completely owned this guy. And you could tell he was upset as fuck because like they owned this guy. Because ultimately he's just the typical neoconservative who's just like, well, it's okay if we invade Iraq. All for the, it's all for Israel, this and that, Anyway, let's finish this bullshit up.
Kids fine. And I know there's some people out there that are having trouble because of economic considerations. They don't know how they're going to handle once the school year starts watching their kids. You found a way to do it in the summer. Maybe it's just time to extend those plans. If you have doubts about your kids' safety.
What? Bruh, if you ain't getting a fucking check, there are plenty of folks like, I didn't get my check from the government. My parents didn't get their check from the government. Luckily for me, I'm in school, so I got a check from school. Now I spent most of that money on BS, but still, that's a whole other story. But I got a check from, for school. So I mean, that was the only saving grace for me. But it's like, do it. Other people have to work, man. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. It's like, oh, well, just extend those plans. Just extend them. What the fuck? Bruh, come on, man.
You're going to have to. You have to figure something out because it's very clear the government doesn't care. There are lawyers in Florida giving teachers free wills. If you have doubts of whether it is safe to send your kid back to school, don't send them. It's time for us to lead ourselves. We don't have leadership at the federal level. Most states don't have leadership at the state level. You have to make this decision for yourself.
Once again, you have to remember is that he plays to his audience. I've said this before, but he plays to his audience. And now he's promoting more anarchism in this case. So he's like, well, the state doesn't care about you. We have to make our own way. We have to, we have to be our own leaders. This and that. He said this in a video about maybe in like April, I want to say. He did a video similar to that, talking about basically, oh, well, Bernie isn't that great and everything, but, we need to lead ourselves. We don't need to worry about, elections, this and that. So he's, like I say, he's very fickle, to say the least. And he's just playing different parts of his audience. But that's my opinion.
Bully you into it. Don't let your political party tell you to not believe what you see with your own eyes. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
Whatever. Okay. Yeah. Hey, this channel's interesting. How are you, bruh? Yeah. What's going on, Mongoose Man? Yeah. Appreciate that. It is kind of interesting. We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about labor Zionism. Actually, let's finish up. I was reading this thing about Bear Bodachov. And Bear Bodachov was a Marxist Zionist. And notice that they just put labor Zionism in its own category. So basically, here's the ideology. Gorbachev became highly influential in the Zionist movement because he explained nationalism in general and Jewish nationalism in particular in terms of Marxist class struggle and dialectical materialism. He saw himself as a Marxist and laid out the philosophy in his first major work, The National Question and Class Struggle. Gorbachev predicted nationalist forces would be more important in determining events than economic and class considerations, especially as concerning the Jews. Gorbachev argued that the class structure of European Jews resembled an inverted class pyramid where few Jews occupied the productive layers of society. The forced migration to Palestine, where they would form a proletarian basis in order to carry out Marxist class struggle. In 1905, he joined and soon became leader of Poale, Zion. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. He became an avid supporter of a Palestine-based Zionism following the 6th Zionist Congress. And this is the Zionist World Congress. During which the question of Uganda as a possible temporary refugee for the Jews was debated. A key part of his ideology was that the Arab and Jewish working class had a common proletarian interest and will participate in the class struggle together once Jews have returned to Palestine. Yes, that kind of fell apart pretty quick. The thing is, I don't think he realized. He passed away in 1917. About 4 or 5 years later, Zeev Jabotinsky, a former British officer, helped start a number of organizations that were very much, I guess what he said is bourgeois Zionism, such as Haganah in 1921 or 22, I believe. But anyway, Bodachov, along with Nachman Sirkin, is considered Well, let me read this recorded in his last recorded speech. Many point out the obstacles which we encounter our colonization work. Some say that the Turkish law hinders our work. Others contend that Palestine is insignificantly small. And still others charge us with the odious crime of wishing to oppress and expel the Arabs from Palestine. This is kind of in connection because I'm doing a video series talking about the Jewish Avengers in the Second World War and talking about basically how European Jews joined the partisans and fought, the Axis powers, particularly the Germans, in the Soviet Union. And later, those groups, those about 50 men and women later joined Haganah and other Zionist groups. But of course, they're still socialists. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. So let's go ahead and expel the Arabs from Palestine. When the wastelands are prepared for colonization, where modern technique is introduced, and when the other obstacles are removed, there will be sufficient land to accommodate both the Jews and Arabs. Normal relations between the Jews and Arabs will and must prevail. Woo! It doesn't really exist that way nowadays. But like I say, that was a whole different type of thing. So much so that there were groups like Ergon, and then you had, the Stern Gang, this and that, which I believe it was the Stern Gang or Ergon that were killing Jews who were sympathetic to the Arabic struggle. And this is before Israel became a country in 1948. So it's, there's a lot of stuff that went bad there. They were killing Jews. That these Zionists were killing Jews, and when I say Zionists, I mean Jewish Zionists were killing sympathetic Jews to the Arabic cause. That's absolutely true. There's no lie there. Okay. Father of socialist Zionism, Gorbachev's ideas were influential in convincing Jewish youth from Europe to move to Palestine. Once again, but this doesn't make sense though. So we're influential in convincing Jewish youth from Europe to move to Palestine. Somehow we're going to have, odious crime of wishing to oppress and expel Arabs from Palestine. Well, when you get more people, that's kind of, you're burning the candle at both ends there, man. Those are two contradictory, those completely butt heads. Indeed, Gorbachev's vision of class struggle in Palestine was widely viewed as untenable by the 1910s. With regards to Palestine struggling to establish an economic foothold, interclass cooperation seemingly necessary, and his theories dimmed in popularity there. Gorbachev, for years, an advocate for a doctrinaire Marxist Zionism, himself seemed to repudiate his former vision of class struggle in Palestine in speeches toward the end of his life. Gorbachev insisted that he was a social democrat. But Gorbachev's left Poale Zion followers continued to vigorously advocate class struggle in Palestine and Eastern Europe, following the February Revolution of 1917. Gorbachev returned to Russia in August 1917. He was part of the Poale Zion Party. We will read about that. Death and split of the Russian Poale Zion. Gorbachev caught pneumonia while on a state tour and died in Kiev. Poale Zion left, formed a Gorbachev brigade, the Red Army during the Russian Civil War, and ultimately split from the main Poale Zion Party to become the Jewish Communist Party. In 1919, they would go on to form the Jewish Communist Party. Well, there you go. While the Social Democratic Right Poale Zion was banned. And this is the same time, like, once again, if you really get into it, you get into the whole idea. I'm trying to think of it now. Franz was more of a socialist-minded person. This whole split between socialism and Zionism did happen. And this is something that, an idea. The International Poale Zion movement also split into left and right factions, which have evolved into modern-day Israeli political parties of the left, Mapam. We're going to talk about that as well, briefly. And the non-Marxist party, Ben-Gurion, Mapai, is more of a social democratic party, or center-left. The precursor of the Israeli Labor Party. European branch of the left Poale Zion movement was effectively destroyed by the early 1950s. Many of its members were killed by the Nazis during World War II, and the surviving activists were persecuted and ultimately outlawed under the various post-war communist regimes. While most Zionists regarded Yiddish as a derivative language of the Jewish diaspora and to be adopted by Jewish people in favor of Hebrew, Gorbachev was a committed Yiddishist and Yiddish theologist and wrote extensively on the importance of the language. Well, there you go. So that's enough about Gorbachev. I do want to show this, actually. There's a link. Let me see if I can put the link in chat. Go ahead and drop that link. Here we go. I just wanted to kind of read it briefly because I was reading this book though for Avengers, and for people like me, I'm just like, oh well, it fascinates me, stuff like that. So it's like I want to show y'all what y'all think about it. So let me drop the link here. It's probably going to be a bit. I'm not sure if it will. I don't know if it's going to get picky or not. There we go. Okay. Yeah. And like I say, y'all can go ahead and check that out. That's That's a link to one of the selected essays in Zionist and Socialist Zionism, which I think is very interesting. I only say that because Borodachov, I guess, influenced Ruska Kochar, or excuse me, Ruska, Roska. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce anything. Ruska Korchak. There we go. Ruska Korchak, who was one of the founding members of what became Nakam after the Second World War. So there's, so there was Mr. Ber Borodachov, the World Zionist Congress. Any Jew over the age of 18? Huh, I never knew that. After the first Zionist Congress, the upcoming 38th World Zionist Congress will take place in 2020. Well, there you go. And of course, once again, if you get into conspiracy theories, you know what? I'm not even going to do this. I'm not even going to do credence. I'm just going to say they exist. Jewish Communist Party. Founded in 1919, dissolved in 1922. EKP argued in favor of merger with the Bund. Now, if you've listened to Jason Unruh, you'll notice that he's friends with Jewish Bundists who I guess live in Arizona. And I guess it's just a different version of the Bund, because this doesn't really sound, the proposed Jewish Comintern section will be under the aegis of the National Communist Party in each country, apart from Palestine. EKP was fiercely opposed to the Yevskita Ketsia, the Jewish section of the Russian Communist Party. The second all-Russian conference of the EKP was held in Kharkov. 1922, the party merged with the Russian Communist Party, the Bolsheviks, and many of its members became involved in that. So they were in Baku. Okay. After the arrival of the 11th Soviet Army, the Jewish population of the city grew considerably in those years because of the pogroms committed by the White Army in Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, that led many Jews to find shelter in Azerbaijan, a country without an anti-Semitic tradition. The fact that the Jewish population had grown up to 13,700 persons helped the EKP and the Communist Bund. Okay, that's the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to make sure. Particularly among mountain Jews. I've kind of heard of mountain Jews, but let's go ahead and get into it. In 1921, the Betzalel Circle were opened in Baku. In those places, it was possible to organize literature and Jewish drama courses. Like I say, this is basically just me researching, kind of just being fascinated by this and kind of going down a rabbit hole, and you're on the journey with me, as they say. And I already lost somebody because, like, man, you're boring, and that's okay. That's fine. I don't blame you. Okay. The Jewish Labor Bund in Lithuania, Poland, and Russia. The Jewish Labor Bund was a secular Jewish socialist party initially formed in the Russian Empire. Okay, so this is the group that exists in Arizona, I guess, that Jason Unruh is friends with. Let's go ahead and skip to the political outlook. Eventually became to strongly oppose Zionism, arguing that immigration to Palestine was a form of escapism. The Bund did not advocate separatism. Instead, it focused on culture rather than a state or a place as the glue of Jewish nationalism. In this, they borrowed extensively from the Austro-Marxist school, further alienating the Bolsheviks and Lenin. The Bund also promoted the use of Yiddish as a Jewish national language and to some extent opposed the Zionist project of reviving Hebrew. The Bund won converts mainly among Jewish artisans and workers, but also among the growing Jewish intelligentsia. During the Russian Revolution, the Bund headed the revolutionary movement in the Jewish towns, particularly Belarus and Ukraine, that worked with the Soviets. They were the only ones. Latvia, Gomel Conference, Unity Talks and Dissolution, 1920. The Bund has ceased to function in Soviet Russia. Many former Bundists perished during Stalin's purge in the 1930s. The Polish Bundists continued their activities until 1948. During the latter half of the 20th century, the Bundist legacy, so all just kind of fell apart. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's go ahead and look at this here. This is the Mountain Jews. This is basically the ones that are in ancient Persia. That kind of, this is kind of like the mountain people that they talk about with the Kurds, kind of. Yeah. United States, 10,000, 4,000. Mountain Jews are not Sephardim, not Ashkenazim, a rather Persian Jewish origin, and they follow some Mizrahi customs. Mountain Jews tenaciously held to their religion throughout the centuries, reflecting their own unique traditions and religious practices. Mountain Jewish traditions are also infused with the teachings of Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism. Oh boy. Okay. Beginning in the 1950s, there were synagogues in all major Mountain Jewish communities. By 1966, reportedly 6 synagogues remained. While Mountain Jews observe rituals of circumcision, marriage, and burial, as well as Jewish holidays, other precepts of Jewish faith occur less carefully. Very good. Interesting. Military tradition, dress, music. Interesting. Okay. Next. Jewish Communist Union. Basically, the name given to the World Zion. Okay. So that's that one, isn't it? Okay. We'll go ahead and skip over that then. So this is the, okay. So this is just a part of, so this isn't the Oblast. I wonder if this involved, yeah, basically they're a part of members of the Cheka. There you go. Like I said, there were once again more theories about that. Mapam. Let me save that for a little bit later. Let's go through some other things here. Let's talk about labor Zionism. So the labor movement is the left wing of the Zionist movement for many years. It is the most significant tendency among Zionist and Zionist organizations. It saw itself as a Zionist sector of the historic Jewish labor movements of Eastern and Central Europe, eventually developing local units in most countries with sizable Jewish populations. Unlike the political Zionist tendency founded by Theodor Herzl and advocated by Chaim Weizmann, the first president of Israel, labor Zionists did not believe that a Jewish state would be created by simply appealing to the international community or to a powerful nation such as Britain, Germany, or the Ottoman Empire. Rather, labor Zionists believed that a Jewish state could only be created through the efforts of the Jewish working class settling in the land of Israel and constructing a state, the creation of a progressive Jewish society with rural kibbutzim and moshavim. That's moshavim. Israeli town type of cooperative Zionists during the second wave of Aliyah. And that's the same thing with kibbutzim. Go ahead and take a look at that briefly. Labor Zionism grew in size. Labor Zionists played a leading role in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, and labor Zionists were predominant among the leadership of the Israeli military for decades after the formation of the State of Israel in 1948. Moses Hess's Roman Jerusalem, the last national question, argued for the Jews to settle in Palestine as a means of settling the national question. Once again, it doesn't matter whether it's so-called the political Zionists or these labor Zionists. Ultimately, they're going to come to Palestine one way or another. That's what I argue. But they want to do it under different ideas. Another Zionist thinker, A.D. Gordon, was influenced by the Volk ideas of romantic nationalism and proposed establishing a society of Jewish peasants. Gordon made a religion of work. These two figures, Gordon and Borchov, and others like them, motivated the establishment of the first Jewish collective, or kibbutz, northern Israel. On the southern shore of the Sea of Galilee. Joseph Trumpeldor, also considered one of the early icons labor Zionist movement. When discussing what is to be a Jewish pioneer, Trumpeldor stated, "What is a pioneer? Is he a worker only? No, the definition includes much more. The pioneers should be the workers. But that's not all. We shall need people who will be everything that the land of Israel needs. A worker has his Zionist interests. Here I am, a nail, a screw, a block. Here, take me. You need a man to till the soil? A soldier? I am here. Policeman, doctor, lawyer, artist, teacher, water carrier? Here I am. I have no form. I have no psychology. I have no personal feeling, no name. I am a servant of Zion, ready to do everything, not bound to do anything. I have only one aim, creation. A socialist Zionist gave his life in 1920 defending the community of Tel Hai in the Upper Galilee. He became a symbol of Jewish self-defense, and his reputed last words, "Never mind, we could die for our country." Oh boy. Became famous in the pre-state movement in Israel during the 1950s and 60s. Trumpeldor's heroic death made him not only a martyr for the Zionist left, but also the revisionist Zionist movement, who named its youth movement Betar, an acronym for the Covenant of Joseph Trumpeldor, after the fallen hero. Albert Einstein was a prominent supporter of labor Zionism and efforts to encourage the Jewish-Arab cooperation. Einstein Israel Zionism, his provocative ideas argue that Einstein was a cultural Zionist who supported the idea of a Jewish homeland but opposed the establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine with borders, an army, and a measure of temporal power. Instead, he preferred a binational state. Yes, the two-state solution. Oh boy. It's too late for that, sorry. However, Ami Issaroff in his article, Was Einstein a Zionist, argues that Einstein was not opposed to the state of Israel, given that Einstein declared it the fulfillment of our dreams. Perceiving his vulnerability after independence, he again set aside his pacifism when President Harry Truman recognized Israel in May 1948. In the November 1948 presidential election, Einstein supported former Vice President Henry A. Wallace's Progressive Party, which advocated a pro-Soviet foreign policy, which also at the time, like the USSR, strongly supported the new state of Israel. Wallace was down to defeat winning no states. So yeah, initially two labor parties were formed in the second Aliyah, pacifist and anti-militarist Poale Hatzair, Young Worker Party, and the Marxist Poale Zion Party with Poale Zion roots. So Mapai Party, I think I talked a little bit about. Mapai was a center-left party, kind of social democratic. It kind of morphed itself into the Israeli Labor Party. But yeah, the first Knesset, these two large parties were initially the two largest parties in the Yishuv. High Yishuv is the body of Jewish residents in the land of Israel prior to the settlement. Decline and transformation. However, according to leaders, had already abandoned socialist principles by 1920 and only used them as mobilizing myths. Following the 1967 Six-Day War, several prominent labor Zionists created the Movement for Greater Israel, which subscribed to once again, we're getting into some deeper conspiracy theory stuff here, which subscribed to the ideology of Greater Israel and called upon the Israeli government to keep and populate all areas captured in the war. Oh boy! Once again, we said, remember when they were saying that the Israelis, Jews, and Palestinians can get along, and now we see the change, don't we? Oslo Accords. I mean, this is once again. Other prominent labor Zionists, especially those who came to dominate the Israeli Labor Party, became strong advocates for relinquishing the territory won during the sixth. Oh boy! So there's a lot of back and forth here, isn't there? Party under Yitzhak Rabin and Shimon Peres. What distinguishes labor Zionism from other Zionist streams today is not economic policy and analysis of capitalism or any class analysis, but its attitude towards Israeli-Palestinian peace process, with modern labor Zionists tending to support the Israeli peace camp to varying degrees. The orientation towards Israel's borders and foreign policy has dominated labor Zionist institutions in recent decades. Oh boy, yeah. The Labour Party followed the general path of other governing social democratic parties, such as the British Labour Party. Into the third way, the Israeli Labour Zionism today, Hashemir Hatzair and college-age campus.
Baby, baby, baby.
Okay. Oh my goodness, this is getting kind of long. Okay. Let's go ahead and skip to this here. Okay, so my pie. Hold on, just a moment. Okay, so my pie. Center Left Party. This was the party, that it just kind of coalesced and it made more of a social democratic party. It all just kind of got hooked into the Israeli Labor Party. Okay, Movement for Greater Israel in 1976. Basically, this is once again, it joined Likud. Okay, we'll just skip past that. This is kind of getting long. Okay, Poale Zion. Poale Zion parties were started across the Jewish diaspora in the early 1920s or the early 20th century. Came into existence in New York in 1903. Jewish Social Democratic Party, Poale Zion. Zionist Socialist Political Party of Russian Empire. Okay, Poltava, that's what we were talking about. Okay, yeah. But they had a big split, basically. They found out that, things aren't going to work out the way that, you want them to. Okay, Marxism and communism, which supported the Bolshevik Revolution and attended the Second and Third Congress of the Communist International in a consultative capacity. Opposed the decision by Poale Zion to rejoin the World Zionist Organization, viewing it as essentially bourgeois in character, aside from differing attitudes towards Zionism and Stalinism. Stalinism isn't a thing, it's just Marxist-Leninism. Even I have to say that. Parted ways over Yiddish and Yiddish culture. Major leaders of Poale Zion since their immigration have been David Ben-Gurion, Palestine Communist Party, came about from a split in 1922. Okay. The resistance group ZOB. Hashemir Hatzair, Deror, Jewish Bund, all these various groups, particularly those involved with the ghetto uprising, Poale's legacy. Okay. Later included Rafi. What the heck is okay? Rafi is that okay? Yeah, the Jewish Combat Organization. A number of left Zionist youth groups. There's kind of a background really to the video that I'm going to upload here in a minute about talking about Ruska. Yeah, I can't remember her last name now. I'm sorry. Ruska what? Yeah, Ruska Korchak. There we go. Yeah, Ruska Korchak. Yeah, I don't know why I can't remember it. Okay, so yeah, Nachman Sirkin was the founder of labor Zionism and prolific writer in Hebrew, Yiddish, Russian, and German and English languages. Oh, wow. 1951, his mortal remains were buried in the kibbutz Kinley. Oh, there we go. And Mapam. So Mapam is the more left-wing party that was originally Marxist Zionist in its outlook. But this is the party that actually took charge in January 1948. This is the group that a lot of the Nakam members were part of. Abba Kovner, as well as who was influenced by Ms. Korchak at the time to become more socialist-minded, because it wasn't just simply that they were more as we read about labor socialists. So it's interesting that they were Marxist Zionist in its outlook. The party's pro-Soviet views did not endear them to Ben-Gurion. During the session, they gained one seat when Eliezer Preminger joined after leaving Maki. It was a communist party in Israel. It is not the same party as the modern-day Maki, which split during the 1960s and later assumed its name. Once again, you'll find this with politics all the time. These parties split into multiple different groups, and it's like, well, we know the truth, we know the way, all that type of thing. The Palestine Communist Party, and really, it just didn't do that much. Okay, but let's get on to Mapam for a minute. It's kind of the linchpin of the whole thing. They created the split. Avraham Berman, 1961. 1948, policy towards Arabs. Mapam entered the 1948 coalition government with a radically different policy towards Arab civilians from that being pursued by David Ben-Gurion. Mapam's executive committee advocated Jewish-Arab coexistence, opposed the expulsion of civilians, and was in favor of the right of refugees to return to their homes after the war. In June 1948, all cadres were issued with a policy statement. Our policy towards Arabs during the war, which had been written by Aaron Cohen, the head of Mapam's Arab Affairs Department. Mapam was particularly opposed to the destruction of Arab houses. Aaron Isling was a member of the cabinet, raised issues repeatedly towards the end of June in a by-center meeting. 24 July 1948, Ben-Gurion accused Mapam of hypocrisy, citing events at Mishmar HaEmek. He said they faced a cruel reality and saw that there was only one way, and that was to expel Arabs. Oh boy, so here we go, Mapam was also opposed to the establishment of settlements on Arab land, but this created a dilemma as the kibbutz movement ideologically closest to Mapam, Kibbutz Artzi, was in the vanguard of the settler movement. Of 12 new settlements created during May and June 1948, 6 were Mapam-related groups. In August 1948, proposals were put forward for the creation of 32 new settlements, all but 5 of which were beyond the proposed UN partition frontier. As a compromise, Mapam agreed on condition that there was sufficient surplus land in each location to allow for the return of the original inhabitants. In the following months, Mapam further diluted this position on the right to refugees to return by adding that there should be no return while the state of war existed, and then it should only apply to the peace-minded. Oh my goodness, here we go. So once again, we can see how we start out with such good intentions, We started with such good. Yeah, dude, I can't hear. Sorry, Mongoose man. Yeah, I went muted. I'm sorry if I. But anyway, I'll try to finish this little stream up here. But basically, as we can see, just as a brief overview for. Oh boy, I did it again. There we go. I did it again, didn't I, folks? I just I accidentally clicked off the video. Okay. Anyway, let me finish it up. As we saw, kind of how labor Zionism, they intended to be like, oh, well, Arabs and Jews, we can get along. But then the split came, and of course, I could take the more Zionist line and say, well, the Palestinians were just unreasonable. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to. I wasn't there, so I won't make assumptions. But it's a bit more complicated than what you may think. So anyway, I'm fitting to upload the new video. It's going to be talking about Korchak. It's going to be talking about Roska Korchak and her story. It's going to be a brief 25 minutes, so the next one will be a bit longer, and I hope y'all enjoy. Have a good night.